All right, thank you. That always still brings a tear to my eye when I watch that. I'd like now to introduce our next speaker, Rick Mitchell. He is District Commander of the Central District 4 of the United States Submarine Veterans.
We've executed the signal for surfacing and hope that the spirits of our shipmates will assemble here for our ceremony today. My name's Rick Mitchell. Like Roy said, currently I have the pleasure of serving as a district commander for the Central District 4, basically submarine veterans organization in Texas. I'd like to thank each of y'all for taking the time to come out today for our ceremony celebrating both the United States Submarine Force's 122nd birthday and honoring our shipmates on eternal patrol. I'd like to thank the Cavalla Union Board for allowing us to do this combined ceremony today also and working with us. We really appreciate that. So this week on April 11th, we marked the 122nd birthday of the Submarine Force. The first purchase of the Holland was first purchased in April, on the 11th of April in 1900, and commissioned in October of that year. Since then, the Navy's been underway developing uses for and improvement of the submarine. In 1909, we started using diesel submarines. The Holland was gasoline powered. From these early days, our sailors were going to sea and honing their skills in underwater warfare, and did so all the way up through today, and still are. Not used much in World War I, but our submarines were serving both before and during World War, and out doing a lot of coastal defense, and in the Azores looking for German U-boats. The submarine force really came into its own in World War II. During the attack on Pearl Harbor, much of our fleet was decimated, but by the grace of God, the Japanese largely left the submarine force alone. Texas native Admiral Chester Nimitz, he commanded the Pacific Fleet during World War II, and he said, "When I assumed command of the Pacific Fleet on 31 December 1941, our submarines were already operating against the enemy. The only units of the fleet that could come to grips with the Japanese for months to come. It was to the submarine force that I looked to carry the load until our great industrial activity could produce the weapons we sorely needed to carry the war to the enemy. It is to the everlasting honor and glory of our submarine personnel that they never failed us in our days of peril. However, this came at a significant price. Out of the 288 U.S. submarines deployed during World War II, 52 of them were lost. American submariners suffered the highest loss rate in the U.S. Armed Forces, more than any other units, including D-Day, about 24%. This includes the submarine here that you see today, the Cavalla, also served in World War II, was not lost. You're going to hear more about that later, but it was actually one of the ones that sunk, a Japanese aircraft carrier, accounting for all of the submarines. 64% of the tonnage sunk by the U.S. Navy during the war. The part's namesake, though, the USS Seawolf, SS-197. It served proudly during the war. Made 15 war patrols, but it was on the 15th war patrol that while carrying stores and Army personnel to the east coast of Samar that she was never heard from again. The Seawolf was declared overdue from the patrol and presumed lost. And through an examination of all the records available, it appears that the Seawolf was tragically lost due to a friendly fire incident. She had 99 men on board at the time, including a Army personnel. After World War II, the United States Submarine Veterans of World War II assigned all 52 boats lost during World War II to a state as a memorial boat. New York and California got 2. Texas was assigned the USS Seawolf, and this park today is named in her honor. the Seawolf, there's plaques for each submarine in the ground back here on eternal patrol. Our force has changed a lot since then, but it continues to perform exceptionally in the same manner as those you just heard of. In 1955, the first nuclear submarine went to sea, the USS Nautilus. The Navy continued to operate numerous classes of submarines. They operate in some of the harshest environments on the Earth and at great risk. Some here today may have even been serving during 1963, when the USS Thresher, the lead ship of her class, sunk during sea trials 59 years ago tomorrow, with 129 souls on board. A few years later, in 68, the Scorpion, USS Scorpion, a skipjack-class submarine, was lost with all hands, 99 men. But even with these losses, we have continued, though, to learn, develop, and operate our boats and do so with great success. It's in large part due to the success of our submarine force that the Cold War was won and ended in '91. Today, our Trident missile submarines are working as the primary leg of the nuclear triad, deployed around the world, ready to launch on a moment's notice. Fast attack submarines are out in support of fleet operations, operating solo in some of the harshest environments, looking for, detecting, and tracking enemy ships and submarines, and conducting other special operations. In 1991, the USS Louisville carried out the first war patrol since World War II, launching cruise missiles against targets in Iraq. The men and women of the submarine force are out there everywhere doing their jobs so that we can stand here today with the freedoms we have. Look at the current world events. I myself couldn't be more grateful that our submarine force is out there not doing in places they are not and never were. What I really hope everyone leaves here today, though, is an increased level of appreciation for the men and women of our submarine force. All of them. Those on internal patrol, those sitting around us here today, and those out there at sea right now. I know we all served at different times and places, and we all believe we did better than anyone else can ever do, and that's all fine. It's that type of pride and competition that I believe drove us to do the things that we did. But truthfully, I think we're all very similar, whether you served in the 40s or serving today. See, none of us chose when we were born. We didn't choose where we were born. But we all chose to volunteer for the submarine force at some time. In large part, none of us had any control over what platform or in what port we served. We went where we were given orders to. We checked on board our boats, we earned our dolphins, we completed the qualification process that was set in front of us, and we did our jobs to the absolute best of our abilities, working together as a team for a common cause. So today I ask of us here and everywhere is that we take a moment to reflect on the freedoms we have and why we have them and the part that our submarines played in that. I also implore you to continue to learn and urge others to learn about the history of this country and why we are the country that we are, and teach everyone you can about that. We cannot let the efforts of our submarine veterans and the work they have done be forgotten simply because we become too complacent to continue to teach and learn our history. Today we're going to do that in part by tolling for the USS Cavalla crew members on internal patrol here. And later this evening, in a separate ceremony for the USS VI, we're going to do a tolling for the 65 boats on internal patrol. To all of our submarine veterans here today, friends and family, thank you for serving and protecting our freedoms. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. Please welcome our next speaker, Ron Whitener from the USS Cavalla Historical Foundation.